in daily grooming, and what we normally use for our regular grooming is a stiff brush and a soft brush. We're going to have a mane comb sometimes, or you could just have a hairbrush of some sort. And a hoof pick. You can get the kind with a little brush. These bend real easy, but it's nice to have the brush. But in the winter months, you might want to have a steel hoof pick for getting out the ice clumps. You always want to have a nice clean towel for afterwards. If you have a really muddy horse, you might want to have a shedding blade, because the scratchy side will get the dirt off, the mud off. And then in the summer months, you might need some fly spray. If you're going to get a little cleaner than normal, you might want some show sheen or some spot remover. And if you want to paint their hooves and make them all pretty, you can get some Phoebing's hoof dressing. But we don't need those for daily, just the fly spray. Okay, so let's start. What I normally do when I'm doing my daily grooming before I tack up, what's most important when you're grooming is not necessarily to make them absolutely gorgeous, but it's a chance to look over their bodies to see if there's any new scratches, bumps, bruises, pulled or sprung shoes before you tack up and get ready. All right, so pay attention when you're brushing to the parts of their body to find those things. So I usually brush with two hands. You can just do it with one hand if you want. And so I take my stiff brush and my soft brush, and I just go along their hair. I go down along their legs, and I make sure that I don't stick my head in front of his knee, because if they pick their foot up, they're going to pop you. I'm never going to put my hands down where they could step on them. All right, so I have to, show some care around them. Okay, I go along the back. If your horse is sensitive, don't brush too hard on the back. They might, if they have back issues. On their belly, if you either want to feel along it or take a peek, because sometimes, especially in the summer months, you might find that flies are biting on them or something like that going on down here. They have their tickle spot. Some care, some don't. And I go along, and I'm just checking both sides of their body. Now on this side, in the hunter jumper world and many parts of the equestrian world, normally we like their manes to lay on the right side of their neck. So I always will brush my horse's mane over to the right. If I have a horse's mane who doesn't stay like his, when I'm done riding, I'll probably wet it to try to train it to stay over to the right. I can also braid it and leave it in for a couple days to help keep it over. So I brush their mane over, and I'm doing a once over to look for any boo-boos. Okay, so you go over with the brushes. All right, now for their faces, I normally don't ever use the hard brush. I use the soft brush. All right, and this horse likes it. And one of the nice things about grooming, if you groom every day, whether you're riding them or not, they get used to lots of handling, which makes them also a lot better when you start to clip and pull manes and things like that. So I use my soft brush for their faces. Okay, so normally on a regular basis I wouldn't touch their tail. If I wanted to clean their tail, what I would probably do, and let me grab some show sheen, especially if it's dry, is I might spray their tail with some show sheen first to help get tangles out. And I'm not going to use a comb or a brush yet, but I would go along and I'm going to pull the hairs apart with my fingers, because I don't want to pull out too many tail hairs, because it takes about 2 years for a full-length tail hair to grow back. So if you comb or brush your horse's tail all the time and you're not careful, you're not going to have much of a tail left. This horse just never has much of a tail anyways. So what you might want to do after you have gone through your horse's tail, and you can see I'm just pulling apart the sticky parts. I'm not ripping their tail out. See, there's a little bit of knot, but nothing's coming out. I'll do this really quick. And the show sheen actually helps it work out very nicely, so you don't have really sticky ends. Now, if your horse's tail is a real rat nest, you might need to shampoo it first before you try to even brush it, because it just might be a wreck. So Kind of depends on your starting point. This horse normally has a pretty clean tail. Okay, so I'm almost done going through this. And then what I'll do is I'll take my brush. I can either use my hairbrush or my horse brush, like if there was shavings in it, to get out any of the loose bits. So this is a real quick way to go through their tail without ripping anything out. And I get my stiff brush or my hairbrush, and what I can do is I can go across the top. Now if you notice your horse is rubbing, you might want to feel here and see if there's any bumps, if they have any skin issues going on here that you might need to have treated, or if it's just dry. If it's dry, you might just want to put some baby oil in there to help give it some moisture again. So I can either go through with my hairbrush, or I can carefully go through with my, sorry, that was my horse brush, or my hairbrush here. But I don't do this very much because you can see hairs come out in it, and I don't like that very much. Okay. But on most days, I would just leave his tail alone. So now, to pick out his feet, all right, and this is something that's important, especially if your horses wear shoes, so you can see if they've sprung them, twisted them, pulled them, and it's always good to make sure that there's no rocks stuck on their feet and that they're safe to ride. So to pick up a horse's foot, you can start by just leaning on them, okay? You might want to run your hand down their leg. You can pinch a little bit, not hard, just to get their attention. And when you pick it up, you're going to put one hand under his hoof to support it, and you're going to take your hoof pick, and you're going to start on either side of the frog, and you can see this is a very dry, clean hoof, and you're going to clean it out. Now, it's important that you get down here on the sides because you can, a lot of wet moisture can gather here, and then you can run into some problems. So you clean out your hoof, check your horse's shoe, make sure it's all good, and then when you're done, you put your horse's foot down gently. You don't just let it fall on the ground. For the back hoof, I'm going to make sure he's standing up. I'm going to lean. I'm going to support his back foot. He's not ready to pull it out yet, so I'm going to give him a minute. I'm going to bring my inside leg and rest his leg on my thigh. And again, you can see this one's he's got a little bit of poop here. So I just start scraping it out. And this is a clean hoof. You can use a little brush if you care. But really, I'm just making sure there's no rocks stuck in here and that everything looks healthy and good shape. And again, I let the foot come down nice. I make sure my foot's not in the way where it's going to come down on me. Okay, and then I go and I do my other 2 feet. And you do those the exact same way. You can just very quickly go and do a check. I pull them out, put it down. I come back here, and when you groom all the time, your horse will anticipate picking his feet up, and it gets very easy. Okay. Places you want to check also. Sometimes they can get dry skin back here behind their elbows in certain climates, or if you wash them a lot. So if they do, you might want to get some Corona to put on their skin back here. You also want to check behind each of their legs here that they don't have what's called scratches, and that can happen especially if you give a lot of baths, but they might have reactions to the environment, the grasses and so forth. And if they do, again, you can keep those really dry and then put Corona on them daily. Really just rub it in there, and that'll help take care of it. So those are some trouble spots to look out for. Also, if they have watery eyes or runny eyes, you'd want to gently take a clean cloth and clean them out, dry their skin, make sure it's all nice and clean. Okay, so once you've done your brushing, I always, when I'm done grooming, I always go over with a towel, and this is going to help rub the oils into their skin to help bring out a shine. Now this horse is a little on the dirty side, so he's not going to shine too much yet. We got to start giving him some baths. Since he's a gray horse, or for any horse, before horse show we'd probably start giving him baths earlier in the week. Give him a few baths because it takes usually a few to get them really clean, especially when they're white or gray. You clean out their nostrils with your towel. Again, their eyes. You can rub out their ears, make sure they don't have anything going on in there. And you go along the other side of their body. And they're all good. Now at this point, since this is summertime, I probably go over with some fly spray everywhere, especially under here. And if I need to on their face, I could either use a roll-on fly spray, or I could spray on my towel and I could rub fly spray without getting it in their eyes, around their heads and their ears. So at this point, this horse is ready to be tacked up and ridden. He looks good. His shoes look great. He doesn't have any bumps or bruises or anything to worry about. And that's all that's really required on a daily basis for regular grooming. Now, by no means is he ready to go horse show, but we'll do that in a separate video. All right, so that's it for daily grooming, and happy grooming.